Senator the Honorable Eli Zakur, the Minister of Trade and Tourism, Senator the Honorable Kamal Maraj, and the Minister of Energy, the Honorable Dr. Rudal Munilal. So this evening, I'd like to welcome the Minister of Trade and Tourism to speak to you on a very critical matter which will impact many lives and many citizens. So, Minister Maraj, we invite you to the podium this evening.
Thank you very much, and good day, everyone. The Cabinet has approved the increase in the permissible age of importation of foreign-use right-hand drive private cars, that's sports utilities, SUVs, sedans, and station wagons, powered by gasoline, dieseline, or compressed natural gas, CNG, from 3 years to under 8 years, and under from the date of manufacture. 2, the increase of 30% in the annual quota assigned to registered dealers of foreign-use cars who have been actively using their quota amounts over the last 3 years. 3, the increase in the permissible age of importation of light commercial vehicles, pickup and panel vans, inclusive of diesel engines from 7 years and under to 10 years and under from the date of manufacture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the Minister of Trade and Tourism, Minister Maraj. We'd like to invite the Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation to make an announcement as well that was approved in today's Cabinet meeting. Minister Eli Zakur.
Thank you, MP Morris. Good evening to members of the media, the viewing and listening public. I have one announcement today. Cabinet has approved the establishment of the regulatory framework for the registration and management of classic, antique, and vintage vehicles in Trinidad and Tobago. Currently, there is no legal framework in Trinidad and Tobago for the recognition, registration, and regulated use of classic, antique, and vintage vehicles. This absence has restricted the lawful use of such vehicles and limited economic potential. In light of the above, the Ministry of Transport and Civil Aviation, guided by international best practices, including those of the Federation International Automobile FIA Historic Commission, and informed by submissions of the Trinidad and Tobago Automobile Association, TTAA, proposed the establishment of a ministry-led policy and legislative framework to regulate this emerging sector, beginning with the creation of a formal classification and registry system to facilitate the safe and limited use of classic, antique, and vintage vehicles on our nation's roads. This initiative aligns with the government's strategic objective for transport modernization, heritage preservation, and tourism diversification. There will be 3 legal categories: classic motor vehicles, which will be vehicles 25 years old from the date of original manufacture; antique motor vehicles, at least 45 years old from the date of original manufacture; and vintage motor vehicles, at least 95 years old from the date of original manufacture. Thank you. Mr. Morris.
Thank you very much, Minister Zakur. As we said earlier, this is today's post-Cabinet meeting, post-Cabinet media briefing, and at today's Cabinet meeting, a number of issues were discussed and approved, and today we also like to invite the Minister of Energy to discuss with you how he is revitalizing and re-energizing our national energy sector. Let's welcome the Minister of Energy, Dr. Rudal Munilal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morris. Good afternoon to members of the press, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. It is my pleasure to stand before you today and speak to a very important matter that has arisen only this morning. Today, the Cabinet took note of a very important piece of news coming out of BPTT. This morning, as some of you may be aware, BPTT announced that they had completed the 3 wells in the SIP project. That would have a total of 7 wells, and collectively, this one project can contribute another 10% to our natural gas output. It's an extremely significant development. I want to begin by congratulating the BPTT team on the successful completion of the SIP project. The SIP subsea development is made up of 7 wells. BPTT announced the first gas from SIP in March 2025 after completion of Phase 1 with 4 wells. Today we are glad to see the additional 3 wells for Phase 2 are now online. May I now indicate that this has been done significantly ahead of schedule. In fact, ahead of schedule is now the new norm under the second administration of Prime Minister Kamla Persad Bissessa. These wells were originally planned to come online in 2026. However, in collaboration with the Ministry of Energy, BPTT was able to accelerate first gas for Phase 2 in 2025. This efficiency augurs well for our natural gas supply. At peak production, SIP is expected to deliver 45,000 barrels of oil equivalent, more or less 250 mmsctu. We are now in a state where I can now proudly announce that our gas production will increase by a significant amount given all the various projects that are now expected to come online. This development is particularly pleasing at this time since the SIP project is a result of incentives provided by the People's Government in 2014. SIP is based on natural gas discovered at the Macadamia well, which was drilled in 2017, combined with the Southeast Queens Beach SEQB gas reservoirs. Significant volumes of natural gas will be produced from SIP from those discoveries way back in 2017. I would like to just add that BP's investment in this exploration well arose because of the accelerated capital allowance for exploration, which was passed into law in April 2014 by the passage of the Finance Bill 2014. This exploration incentive had a sunset clause, meaning that it expired on December 31st, 2017. It was for that reason that BP drilled that exploration well in March 2017 and the Savannah exploration well in 2016. The Savannah exploration well resulted in the Matapal project, which has been in production since 2021. If the exploration incentive was not provided in 2014, these 2 projects would not have materialized and our natural gas production would be much worse than it currently is. Our energy sector remains integral to our economy, and resources from the SIP project play an important role in strengthening Trinidad and Tobago's natural gas supply. We have indicated before that upon taking office, we had a sustained decline over 10 years in both oil production and natural gas. Today, with this expansion and this ahead of time scheduling for the 3 wells, we expect that we'll have a significant amount of natural gas available in the next year and certainly into 2027. We are extremely pleased and once again would like to congratulate Mr. David Campbell and his team at BP. I've also taken note of the hastily posted statement by the former Minister of Energy, who wasted no time to let loose a posting on social media. It was quite ironic that when we were speaking of establishing the legal framework for attracting and incentivizing investment, his claim to fame on this project was that he visited the pipes in Chagaramas. Ladies and gentlemen, with this project and others in the pipeline, so to speak, we expect that this sector will get a much needed boost as we move forward, notwithstanding the inherited problems of gas shortage, which we found in April 2028 upon entering office. Thank you, and we'll take any questions that the media may have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Munilal. We'd like to invite members of the media to pose questions to the panel.
All right, Dr. Munilal. Great news for the energy sector, but I wanted to kind of shift our attention to nutrient to see if you would have an update for us on that, what was a major forex earner for us.
I like how you work that into the conversation. Um, well, it wasn't the topic for today, but having said that, I can indicate that we continue to have an open door policy as it relates to the petrochemical sector and all players, including Nutrien. And we have been over the last couple of weeks and so on in touch, and we are quite prepared to discuss at an appropriate time future investment and future projects involving Nutrien and others in the downstream sector so that the doors remain open, and we will continue to work with all players in the downstream sector since, as Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisesa has announced recently with our revitalization master plan, we are open for business. And a key area, a key focus of that master plan is, of course, the energy sector and the energy hub. And we will be open for business, not only for Nutrien, but for all other players that wish to discuss their investment portfolio with us.
When, you made this announcement moments ago, we got the WhatsApp message about this discovery that BPTT has made. What does it mean for Trinidad and Tobago? How soon would we be able to benefit from this discovery?
Well, the benefit is this is an ongoing project. They have completed, as I said before, earlier in the year, they completed 4 wells online, and today 3 wells, the remaining 3, which 7, now online. And this brings much needed gas to Trinidad and Tobago. As I said before, it is in the vicinity of 250 MMBTU. And that would be used and distributed to our customer base from the perspective of the NGC. And we are hoping that this will also ensure that we have a boost in our revenues as well. There's a particular calculation used to discuss and arrive at revenue acceleration from natural gas expansion so that it will mean extra revenue.
Could I pose some questions to Minister Zakur? Minister, we have a report that tour operators are saying people are canceling their trips because of U.S.-Venezuela tensions. Do you have any information and feedback for the population on that?
I have no comment on that question, ma'am.
Why not?
Please direct those questions to the relevant ministers. I don't have any information about tours being cancelled.
All right, well then I'll forward some questions to Minister Maharaj. Because you are responsible for tourism as well, tour operations, Tobago looking for Trinidadians and foreigners to participate in tourist activities on the island. We've reported that tours have been cancelled because people are concerned about U.S.-Venezuela tensions. Have you, as tourism minister, heard any reports of persons being concerned about even traveling to Trinidad, traveling to Tobago to participate in any activities amid these global geopolitical tensions?
We have received no major reports about anything like that. Of course, there's always people going to be concerned about anything, but there's nothing major this time.
Carnival 2026 is around the corner. We've had some furor on social media after the government made certain decisions for our sporting complexes as it relates to noise pollution and that sort of thing. Any update on feedback and interest in Carnival 2026?
From what I understand, all the hotels are booked, the flights are booked, people are coming. And we are innovative people, will find solutions.
So some members of the, some people, right, they're in a state of unease because of U.S. military operations. And of course, we don't have Minister Sturge present. Can anybody tell us where he is?
Minister Sturge was at Cabinet today. All ministers were at Cabinet today. Again, the Cabinet made many decisions today, and these were the pressing issues at this point in time. I have seen Minister Sturge liaise with you all in the media, and I think you can contact Minister Sturge in the usual channels. Today's press conference is aimed at letting the people know that for the first time in a decade, the energy sector their prosperity and the economy is on the rebound. Today's press conference is aimed at letting people of Trinidad and Tobago know that we are taking decisions to impact every single citizen of this country in the ability to afford a car for their families to move around. So, but in the issues of safety, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, only last week the Minister of Foreign Affairs held a press conference on Friday. The Prime Minister herself has been in the media addressing and allaying any fear and giving us the reassurance that we must be calm. So again, this issue of Minister Surge presence here does not arise because the government today has chosen to discuss some very key issues, especially that Dr. Munilal has become the first energy minister in the last 10 years to have growth in the energy sector.
Two things can be true at the same time. We also have people, while we are all concerned about the economy, persons are on social media commenting about aircrafts flying over their homes. They've expressed concern, and we've reported about the rumblings they feel, and they are looking for some clarity from our government, not just the U.S. Embassy or U.S. officials informing us, giving us an update as to whether for instance, whether the drones that are here were the ones that were used to blast some of the pirogues that were part of the almost 82 or more than 80 people killed by the United States.
There is, I think, in terms of the aircraft and whatever activity, the government has been accountable on that issue because Friday, the Minister of Foreign Affairs informed the population that there will be joint training activities between the U.S. military and our defense force. So any type of aircraft over your head or so on, it is part of the training exercises that the joint training exercises that was announced or were announced to the population. It should not come as any. The Minister of Foreign Affairs did answer those questions. He also answered the question on Friday that he is of the belief that there was none of the equipment would have been involved in those strikes. So, but again, those are issues that will come up in future when Minister Sturge and the Minister of Foreign Affairs continues to update us. But in terms of the activity in the air or even on the roads or whatever, they are all part of the activity that the government did inform the population would occur as part of a joint training exercise on Friday. And just to add to that, I believe last week as well, there was some level of French involvement. The French ambassador on his Facebook page posted that the French military or some sort was assisting in also joint training exercises. So training exercises and joint exercises have always been part and parcel of this country's global relationship with our allies.
Did Cabinet discuss whether this joint exercise, which is scheduled to be finished tomorrow, is it still going to end tomorrow or will it be extended?
Those are issues that the relevant ministers will address in due course. Those are national security issues, and as you would appreciate, there is this level of respect and parameters around national security issues, and none of the goodly ministers, nor myself, could speak to that. Again, we keep to the issues that we brought here, but we give the reassurance that all has been done before, and all that continues to happen has been announced to the population, and we reflect also on the Prime Minister's very, very, very defining statements on Monday that Trinidad and Tobago will not be a launching pad for any attack, that all of these are part of our relationship, very age-old relationship with our U.S. allies.
Can you tell us what has been achieved so far? And if you nor either of the other ministers here can we get a commitment from the government to have an opportunity to speak with the Minister of Defense and Minister of Homeland Security about what has been achieved? And I want to remind you, just yesterday when we caught up with the Homeland Security Minister, he said he wasn't even aware that a foreign vessel, the world's largest aircraft carrier, was just a short distance away from our shores. So can we get that commitment to get some feedback and actual evidence of the effectiveness of this joint collaboration with the U.S.?
The government has always been committed to providing accountability in every aspect of our national governance, from the energy sector education, and it is no different in national security. Matter of fact, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister Sobers, in his press conference on Friday, and the one that preceded that a week before, has always spoken about the achievements, and to quote him, there has been a significant decrease in crime. But again, in terms of the achievements, we leave that for the relevant ministers to account and to give. And again, the government has always been committed in providing results and accounting for whatever measures we are part and parcel of. So in due course, that will be part of the national conversation.
I hope so. We've been trying to get Minister Stage all day yesterday. Minister Zakur, as we spoke, as MP Morris spoke about crime and going down, we saw on the bus route a video. I don't know if you saw it at all, but there was a robbery that had taken place on in a red band maxi. Persons were robbed. It seemed to be an aggressive altercation, and it's gone viral, of course. Any comments to apprehensive people? I spoke to one man who said he uses the bus route on a daily basis. He travels and he's afraid. What message you have for the population and any feedback that you can provide as it pertains to potentially more patrols, for instance, of the TTPS on the bus route, that kind of thing?
I have not seen the video. I can't speak of persons being apprehended. Direct those questions to the Minister of National Security. Sorry, Homeland Security. But regarding on the bus route, the transit police, the traffic wardens, and other authorities do patrol very often the bus route.
So you have no information as Minister of Transport that there was a robbery that earned national attention?
At this moment, no, I have not seen the video, ma'am.
Will you be looking into that?
I will.
But considering that it's happened, and you could fact check it even right now, any message to the population, the traveling public, about how they can conduct themselves to not make themselves a soft target, or what you as minister can do or will look into doing to ensure that people are able to get their destination safely?
To have that discussion with colleagues, and if there are any concerns, I will put out a media release on that.
Minister Maharaj spoke about vehicles, right-hand vehicles from 3 years to under 8, opening up the market for those vehicles. But Trinidad and Tobago is inundated with vehicles. You see traffic. Yesterday it was crazy because of the rainfall and other things like that. And more often, persons, especially transportation engineers, argue that what we require is a more reliable public transportation system. Why not go that route as opposed to opening up the country to import more vehicles?
I don't want to speak for my colleague, but by extending the vehicles, more persons would have an opportunity to afford a vehicle. Regarding the public transport, which I could speak of, I inherited, and I've said it many times, I inherited PTSD, which was in a very, very bad position. I have said it in a postcard where when I entered office, 71 routes have been discontinued. There's only about 100 buses versus a need of 300 buses. We are working tirelessly at the Ministry and PTSD to improve the public transport in Trinidad and Tobago.
As Minister of Transport, do you think that Trinidad and Tobago needs more vehicles on the roads? Do we need more vehicles, considering how our road network appears to be flooded with vehicles?
Currently, there's a discussion with Ministry of Works and Infrastructure. They'll be responsible for enhancing our road network, and conversations are ongoing.
What about public transportation? What about the PTSD? You said that when you came into office, you inherited an issue where 71 routes were discontinued under the previous administration. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that we have people get access to more vehicles. We make vehicles more affordable to the average citizen. But some people may prefer to just take public transportation. What measures are being put in place to accommodate those individuals?
Well, when more persons use the public transport system, it's a personal choice. If somebody wants to buy a vehicle, they're entitled to do so, an affordable one. If persons choose to use the public transport, they could do so as well. And more persons who use the public transport, there will be less vehicles on the road. Tomorrow, I didn't want to announce this here, but tomorrow we are launching at the ministry a park and ride survey where we are proposing a park and ride from Arima, Chaguanas, Couva, San Fernando to Port of Spain, where persons could park their vehicles at locations, safe locations, board a PTSC bus or maxi taxi concessionaire, and come into Port of Spain and then return to their vehicle at the end of the day. I don't want to speak too much on it, but a media release is going out tomorrow with the links for the survey.
And that would just be tailored to the average, to anybody in the country. Anybody could
yes,
respond.
Anyone.
And what's going to happen after that? You're going to determine which areas will be hubs and that kind of thing?
Yes, based on the information received, and it will also have an aspect where persons could pre-register for the service, because it will be a paid service as well.
Thank you. Just to respond to a question on the WhatsApp. Just for the context, put in context that the SIP gas field is located 78 kilometers off the southwest coast of Trinidad within the East Mayaro block in water depth of approximately 80 meters. So that's the geographical location of the gas field. And to emphasize again that at peak production, this would deliver 45,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day and more or less 250 million standard cubic feet of gas per day, which is more or less, again, at peak production, to be 10% addition to our national gas output.
Minister, a couple of days ago, former Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley painted a sort of gloomy picture about what the future may hold for Trinidad and Tobago's natural gas reserves. According to him, if this country were to participate in any attack against Venezuela, it could result in it places our offshore platforms at risk. Do you share that sentiment? Because he added that if those platforms are at risk, it means be able to generate electricity should the attack. What is the response to that?
Well, thank you for raising the matter, because quite frankly, I forgot. I did take note of the former Prime Minister had a press conference, I believe, at the office of the former Prime Minister, whatever that is. It's not known in our legal and parliamentary setup, but whatever it is, he was speaking from there. And I did issue a statement to indicate that I thought it was most alarmist and irresponsible for a former Prime Minister who, claimed to advocate on behalf of the energy sector to raise alarms on unnecessary propaganda on this matter. We have been having discussions with all the upstream players and multinational corporations, and incidentally, many of them have been in, dispute, conflict areas of the world and operate, and they are not at all disturbed by this. They have their contingency plans and so on. So there's really no high risk. The installations have security. And we continue to work along our law enforcement ministers and partners so that this is not an issue that is before us now. I think that Dr. Rowley is really trying to become relevant in his own political party and dealing with his own politics and is seeking to upstart the leader of the opposition, Mrs. Penelope Beckles, somewhat. But it is really irresponsible, it is alarmist, it is mischievous and generating propaganda, and we are well capable of dealing with the issues of the energy installations, offshore and onshore for that matter.
Minister Maharaj, I want to ask, about the link between Ghana and Trinidad. Barbados recently received its first charter flight from Ghana on a Boeing 737 MAX 8. Is TNT currently considering using Caribbean Airlines to go to Ghana?
We are looking early next year. Next year at an inaugural flight. And initially we are looking at an Ethiopian airline charter plane in consultation with the people from Ghana, the government in Ghana. A flight from Biako to Accra. As you know, Prime Minister Modi made that trip in 7.5 hours. And going to Ghana now takes 2 days. Republic Bank has around 40 branches in Ghana, and they always are very concerned when they have to go and visit, because that 2-day trip is very expensive, and it's also time-consuming. And they're very pleased, everyone is pleased that we are exploring the opening up of the African market. And we are looking at a free trade agreement initially with Ghana and Trinidad, and then with CARICOM and ECOWAS. ECOWAS is the equivalent in West Africa, a market of 420 million people. So, yes, we're looking at it, and it's important to note that Ghana has appointed their first ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago ever. He's here right now, and he's presented his credentials to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So that's a sign that they're interested in this opening up of the market.
Air Peace, the Nigerian airline, it chartered, well, they are advertising chartered flights to come to Trinidad via Antigua. So will you also be considering that, because you noted?
We're looking at all options. We would love if Caribbean Airlines would put a flight from New York to Piaco to Accra or to Nigeria. We would love that. But this is an inaugural test flight, right? And the Ghana officials have identified Ethiopian Airlines as having the type of plane that would do it, that could charter. And we are testing the waters, right? We are expecting, from what our feedback, that it could be a full flight going across. And they're expecting a full flight coming back, right? Once we set that, and we see that what is possible, I think the sky is the limit.
What happens next once you do an inaugural flight? Like, if you could break it down for us, what to that as a travel to?
Well, test this flight and look at the feasibility of it. There are a lot of naysayers out there, right? But once we test it and people see that it can be a once-a-week flight, we can probably work with the Minister of Transport and engage him, and he can engage the relevant parties to make it a regular flight. Because we are definitely serious about opening up the African market to our manufacturers and to create a gateway for tourism. I'm also the Minister of Trade, Investment and Tourism. So I'm looking at that aspect. Opening up and make Trinidad and Tobago, make Trinidad a transatlantic hub that links the east to the west. Once we create that, we don't have enough hotels in Trinidad to host people. And we will have to build new factories for our manufacturers.
Thank you so much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. We wish you a safe evening. And again, we ask you to tune into Parliament tomorrow, where the government will continue its legislative agenda as we work to secure the well-being of our people and our communities. Thank you very much.
I want to tell all a story about the ills in we society. Going from country to country over this wide world eye room.
Get ready for a powerful show